Lickers. These horrific, grotesque, wall-crawling abominations are probably the most iconic and feared creature of the Resident Evil series. With appearances in multiple games, movies, novels, and comics, there is still so much information we do not know about these vicious BOWs.
What in God's name?
For this episode of Our Research, I will be looking into the creation, evolution, and practical applications of these BOWs. I will be answering the real questions fans have been asking for years.
What is it?
First, an introduction to Lickers. Lickers are probably the coolest creatures in Resident Evil. These guys stick to walls and lick things. They lick everything, just like my dog. And just like my dog, Lickers are blind, but they have an acute sense of hearing to make up for it. So it's best to avoid them whenever they're near. Do not make any sudden moves or discharge a firearm in their presence. There are several variations and stages to the Lickers mutation that I'll cover, starting with their origins. Who was responsible for naming them? Where did they come from? Did you know there is no scientific name for the creature? No assigned umbrella number codename, like the other BOWs to come out of the labs? My search for answers began where the virus itself was discovered, deep in the heart of Africa, Resident Evil 5. I found a document at the Tricell facility asking this very question. In it, Miguel writes, March 7th, I wonder who came up with the name Licker for those creatures. I mean, when you see its long tongue, you just know it's the perfect name. It really is the perfect name. I wish I had thought of it when I was naming my dog. This document alone is what led me down this path to uncovering the truth and ultimately creating this video. So, who did name these guys? Well, the sad fact is, the answer remains unknown, but what is known is that it was an umbrella that coined the term Licker. Raccoon City, 1998. The first documented mention of the name Licker can be found in the operation report file located within the RPD. The first two entries were recorded by David Ford, one of the last police officers to meet their end in the RPD. On the final page, there is an additional report with no record of who wrote it. It reads, 3 additional people were killed following the sudden appearance of an as-of-yet unknown creature. This creature is identified by missing patches of skin and razor-like claws. However, its most distinguishing characteristic is its lance-like tongue, capable of piercing a human torso in an instant. Their numbers as well as their location remains unknown. We have tentatively named this creature the Licker, and are currently in the process of developing countermeasures to deal with this new threat. And that's it. That's the only mention of Lickers in the very game that introduced us to Lickers. No official umbrella number codename, no scientific name, just a name that was only supposed to be used for the time being, or whatever tentatively means. I think the developers forgot this detail, or ignored it, and just moved on to using the name in official umbrella documents later. In the Resident Evil 2 remake, they have completely removed the additional report from David Ford's document. My guess is this was an attempt to erase this mistake. You'd think the accidental discovery of creatures that checks off all the boxes necessary for a perfect BOW would result in scientists actually doing some, science, creating records and documents along the way. Eventually, they do go on to experiment with the Lickers. Sheena Island, 1998. Ark Thompson encounters the same kind of Licker mutation as seen at the RPD. Here we actually get an official umbrella document and discover that these creatures, much like my youngest sibling, were an accident. BOW file number 3, Licker. They are created by a mutation that occurs when a zombie is contaminated by the T-virus. As a result of the transformation process, they have conspicuous features like exposed brain tissue, and they move around on all 4 legs. Compared to the zombie, they possess incredible agility. They have no eyes and are unable to see. Instead, they have an abnormally evolved sense of hearing. So, still no official name, but somehow these scientists, who are locked and secluded on a private island, came up with the exact same name that these police officers did. According to this document, they are an unexpected mutation of the T-virus, a mutation within the T-virus that affects a certain number of people infected with the virus. Despite what other videos and sites tell you about VACT being the catalyst for the creation of Lickers, I have found no evidence in any of the games to support these claims. The closest thing I've found to supporting this claim is the appearance of both Crimson Heads and Baby Lickers inside Umbrella's Russian lab. The theory does make sense, so I'm willing to accept it. I'm just not going to state it as fact like everyone else.
Interesting theory.
The same thing goes with the E-virus, or whatever that is. If anyone can tell me where I can find files linking the E-virus or VAC to liquors, let me know in the comments.
I have no idea what you're babbling about.
With that being said, I'm not going to claim to know the exact stages of mutation, but somewhere along the way, everyone infected with this strain gets naked, like butt naked. For reasons unknown, it's never addressed in files or dialogue. Taking a look back at Miguel's journal from RE5, we see that by 2009, the liquors have evolved and started reproducing. And with that discovery, I was sent down a deeper path searching for more information. Just how exactly are these guys making sex to one another without any genitals? Trust me, I've looked. I have unlocked every character model viewer in all the games. I've flipped, rotated, zoomed in, zoomed out, and not once did I see anything resembling a genital. In the Resident Evil 2 remake, I'm pretty sure this is a butthole, so its genitals should be close by, but as usual, there's nothing to be found.
All that tongue, nothing to lick. No wonder why they're so mad.
My thoughts exactly, T. How are these guys reproducing? Ass to ass?
Now you're asking the real questions. Get to the bottom of this.
You got it, T. Here you can see, as I was trying to sneak a closer peek, I noticed these guys are sticking to windows. They aren't using their claws like in the movies to dig into the walls and ceilings. So first they've got to lose the clothes, then they got to lose the skin, but like, I'm pretty sure if you were to skin a man, and I mean like if you peeled a banana, you'd still be left with a banana. So where did their wieners go? If they're just falling off, then the RPD should be littered with dicks and balls, maybe even a titty or two. In Resident Evil Outbreak File 1, in the Apple Inn, we catch a glimpse of one of the earliest stages of becoming a licker. Now again, I can't find any records stating this, but supposedly, due to some bad water, the guests at the Apple Inn were infected with this mutated strain, turning them into baby lickers. These lickers don't have the muscle mass yet, but they're skinless and butt naked. So this tells us that the skin falls off before the muscle gains. And at the end of the stage, we come face to face with the Regis licker, or suspended licker. Now, I don't want to assume anyone's gender, but I think it's safe to say, judging from the clothing style, physique, and lack of brains, that this one is a lady licker. The only one in the series, and at this point, the survivors have already dealt with a handful of lickers more advanced than her. It just doesn't make any sense to be more powerful at a stage of mutation where the creature should be at its weakest. But I guess since she's a woman, she gets special treatment. Don't get me wrong, I like the design. I really like the design. Damn, would you look at that? I bet she could lick her own butthole if you know what I mean. Continuing my search, this time for any environmental storytelling or evidence within the maps or backgrounds of the game. Finding the most controlled environment I could think of, I turned to Resident Evil 2. Beyond this gate is a room so heavily secured, shuttered, and locked down, you have to play the game twice just to open it. And judging by the environment, the room has been locked since the outbreak started. Now, based off what I've gathered from the photos developed in the RPD and the state of the environment itself, I think it's safe to say that these 3 lickers didn't come from these 2 smashed BOW containers, one of which contained a tyrant. Now, somehow this tyrant made a clean break, maybe intentionally released, but that's for another video. At some point, 4 people got locked into this room, and 3 mutated into lickers. Maybe this T-103's accelerated metabolism is what gave birth to the mutated strain that created lickers. Now, these 3 infected people have gone through the initial stages of mutation, yet we don't see any evidence of that taking place here. No clothing scattered about, no skin sacs or genitals rotting on the floor. Did these lickers eat their own flesh? If so, why didn't they eat this hunk? Now, you can easily see that these lickers have evolved, either from the prolonged exposure to P-epsilon gas, or it's just a later stage of mutation. The actual cause is unknown. According to this model viewer, the evolved licker is an improved licker, but I'm not seeing much improvement in their nether regions. Do their clothes burn off like Alexia's? Regis licker was looking pretty hot, and the entire Apple Inn was on fire. Before moving on, I just want to point out the stupid amount of lickers in Darkside Chronicles. Since this game is just Leon's version of events, I'm going to say he was embellishing his stories for Krauser.
So, you think BOWs actually exist? Oh, wait. You said you faced him before, huh?
Browsing the RE fan sites for more misinformation, they claim there are black liquors in Resident Evil 7. That is not a liquor. I refuse to call that a liquor. Maybe 3/5 of a liquor, but not a whole liquor. Jumping mediums, because the Wii and Xbox games offered up no Wiis or boxes. Tricell's version of the liquor, the one that's been getting it on, can be found in the animated film Resident Evil Damnation. I rewatched it in search of any evidence, but just like the liquor's sexless taint, it didn't offer any satisfaction. I did, however, learn that these liquors are controlled by the Plagas parasites. Forget the military applications, I don't even want to get into what I'd do with 6 feet of mind-controlled tongue action. Also, if these guys are mind-controlled, why are they naked? Los Illuminados aren't naked. Salazar's henchmen aren't naked. After that, I thought I'd check out the Wes Anderson films. The liquors in these films are wild compared to the boring, tame ones from the games. Umbrella actually does some experimenting and research. In the first film, we see that liquors are intentionally created by injecting bunnies with the T-virus. Resident Evil Apocalypse introduces us to liquor vision and nothing more, leaving us with the best film in the series, Resident Evil Retribution. This film gave us the Uber liquor. This big brain liquor abducts people and cocoons them. My only guess is to create more liquors, but if that's the case, the liquor in this film abducts the absolute worst person capable of becoming a liquor. This girl is tiny and deaf. Yeah, I know, liquors have heightened sense of hearing and the T-virus repair stuff, but it doesn't repair the skin that they lost. It doesn't repair that dick that's gone missing. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume this kid was about to become the Helen Keller of liquors.
Evolution has its dead ends.
So after viewing all these films, I thought I'd reach out to the director and see if I could get any insight from him. So as a special guest for this episode, on the phone with me is Paul Thomas Anderson and his wife Mila Jovovich.
Jovovich, how difficult is it, for God's
Do you
sake?
think we should have seen the liquors reproducing? Don't you think fans would want to see something like that?
No way, this is completely
What
pornographic.
about a person having sex with a liquor, like you could possibly in the animated films?
Oh, I love to see people get screwed on screen. So great.
It's quite hard to do a liquor because physically, a creature with those size limbs couldn't really move. Doesn't really work physiologically.
Yeah, you could catch yeast infection.
Yeah, we could.
I think you would get worse infections than that. Paul, you've taken a lot of creative liberty with the film adaptations, especially with liquors. They mutate after eating, they see red, you have an Uber liquor that abducts people. In designing these creatures, did you ever want to give them genitals?
Yeah, one of the things about the liquor in the first movie was actually the decision to have the liquor was kind of a last-minute one in the first film, which meant that the building the liquor in CG, all the R&D on it, the animation on it was done relatively quickly.
So what you're saying is you didn't have time to give it genitals?
And we were aware of that. So, we've tweaked things here,
In your films, when the liquor feeds, they mutate and grow massive. Do you think this should also give the creatures bigger genitals? Natural enhancement?
If you're going to ask questions about that, then you probably shouldn't be watching a Resident Evil movie.
No, exactly.
Oh, in your film, you have this really stupid line from the Red Queen.
Stronger, faster, hunter.
Yes, that line. God, I hate that line.
Hey, stop cracking her. I thought that little girl did a great job. Adorable. Are you kidding? I fought so hard.
Hunters are actual creatures in the games, but you wouldn't know anything about that, having never played more than 5 minutes of the game.
I think for fans, they played that 5 years ago. Why would they want to see that in a movie? And I've been very aware of that in all of the video game adaptations we've done since
What
then.
are your thoughts on the Regis liquor from Outbreak? It's pretty hot, huh?
Her little neck and her little head like a little bird waking up. No, honestly, I just thought it was so gorgeous. You're sick, Mila. I know I'm sick, but honestly, it was so pretty. That must have smelled. You gotta remember that. That must have stunk. That must have smelled really, really bad. Well, just the creature being burnt alive, humans being burnt. I've passed by crematoriums and it really smells
Well, thanks for taking the time to answer these questions. I just have one more. Are the liquors in the first film created by rabbits?
The liquor was created by a company called...
Shit, it's broken.
Whoops. Looks like I accidentally hung up on them. Well, they weren't helping out much anyway. Just like every avenue I've exhausted, I am left with more questions than the questions I originally set out to answer. Liquors have no genitals, but they reproduce. They snatch bodies, but they don't have snatches. Maybe they're just asexual and their clothes burn off. But can mammals be asexual? Editor's note. While making this video, I discovered an old Capcom developer's interview discussing the creation of liquors. The unofficial name is never addressed, but what I'm about to show you does clear up some of the questions.
会員の方に何かプレゼントをいただけるということでお伺いしたんですけれども、何をいただけるでしょうか？
はちょっとカート、去年ほとんど乗ってなかったんで、今年はカートに乗って、タイムをあとコンマ5秒縮めるっていうことを目標になんか頑張っていきたいなと。ちょっとすみません、仕事とは全然関係ないんですけど、これからも、カプコンのとんがったライン。
And there you have it. Licker's genitals were removed due to the graphical limitations of the PS1. Still no idea who named the creature, but chances are it's one of these dudes that died in the RPD. No evidence of genitalia, skin sleeves, or clothing. No scientific name. Maybe one day our fan favorite creature will get the attention it deserves. Oh wait, here we go.